One place where they'll be following the court proceedings in Minneapolis quite closely is here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. That's because this is the home of Chief Oshkosh beer, another product that could be banned if the Minnesota law is upheld. The man who makes Chief Oshkosh says his beer is quite different from Crazy Horse malt liquor.
Our alcohol content is essentially the same as a Miller or a Budweiser, whereas the alcohol content of a malt liquor is double what ours is. We don't, as I said, we don't market it towards the Native American minorities. And I can't speak for the other company, but I know their marketing policies are different than ours. And pricing.
In addition to the town, many businesses are named after Chief Oshkosh. He was a leader of the Menominee Indians, who was known for helping to make peace between Native Americans and white settlers.
The philosophy of the Native Americans at that time was very, very close to my heart in that I consider myself a conservationist, an environmentalist, and to me, the Native American was the original conservationist, the original environmentalist. And I couldn't think of a better symbol for my company than to revive that name.
The name Chief Oshkosh Beer has actually been around here for over 100 years. The old company went out of business in 1971, and all that remains of the brewery is this sign, which now hangs on the Oshkosh Convention Center. When Jeff Fulbright got into the beer business in 1990, he decided to revive the old name.
There are literally thousands of products, cities, teams, everything. I mean, there's just so many uses of Native American symbols and words in our culture that I just don't feel as though it's not our right by heritage, but right by shared cultural history to be able to use that. I mean, I'm English and Norwegian, and I brew in a German manner. So that the culture, there's cultural mesh, and this is a melting pot, and I believe Native Americans are part of that melting pot.
These aren't people who just live in Hollywood movies. These are real people who have real families and have real descendants and have real rights into the use of their property. And we tend to think that because they're Indians, everything about them is in the public domain, and that their names and their property is free for the taking, just as their land seem to be. And it's not the case.
Fulbright designed the label for his beer, which he calls the Great Spirit Pose. He says the chief's family has not contacted him, and the only complaints he's received were in response to his first ad campaign.
Our intention was to be an Indian uprising, in other words, coming back, a resurgence, like a phoenix rising again. And it was misunderstood, and the campaign was dropped. We had billboards on the highways. We had tens of thousands of pieces of point-of-sale materials. At the slightest hint of any problems in that, we pulled it at a cost of thousands of dollars to us, and this was back in late '91.
Fulbright says he's been in contact with Hornell, who told him it cost $500,000 to win their case at the federal level.
What they're going to spend in the Minnesota battle, I don't know, but I hope they spend enough to clear the way for me.